everybody. Welcome to Justice Served Daily. We are glad you are here with us today. Sorry for the slight 30-minute delay. We went from a 2 o'clock to a 2:30, but you work through the technical difficulties to make sure we have no problems. So, again, we appreciate that you're here. And hello to on my panel today, two of my justice investigators. I guess of that. I think that's what we call you. You guys are justice warriors. We can think we're investigators, researchers, whatever you want to call. But welcome, Mama Bear and Paige.
Hi.
We are ready to go today. We have been talking and yapping and looking at this, and sometimes when we chat we should just record it as a show, because we're like, well, wait a minute, we should talk about that during the show where we can have everybody in there, and we try to be conscious of sometimes there's some things that we may know that you guys don't know, so we'll try to get through that. And as we go through all of this, as you have questions, please let us know. Because I know there's some things out there that, like I said, maybe you're new to the case or you've never heard about it, but that's what we're trying to do is help you guys be able to learn all the facts and learn as much as you can about the case as it continues. So I am going to go in to be able to share my screen with you all and make sure that I pull this up correctly. So here we go. We are talking about the, obviously, we're dealing with the Delphi murders with Kegan Kline, witness list and exhibit list coming out by the prosecutor to share with the defense team. And we're also going to go and look and review of the CSAM evidence found against Kegan Kline, and also some videos that kind of highlighted that information with him. So let's get started. So we're going to start with talking about what really began with Kegan Kline involved and them even going out to look at him from the beginning. And as we know about the dates of February of 2017, that they first went out to conduct this search warrant, this probable cause affidavit that we're going to kind of glance at briefly, but we do have videos on that. So if you want to go watch any of those, I'm going to have Mama Bear share about that. Actually, what got started with this was a completely different investigation. So let me go back into stop sharing my screen so that Mama Bear can share hers. And
can you see it?
Yes, I can. Let me pop that up. And let's take a watch of this video, guys.
13 Investigates is uncovering the first link between a fake social media profile run by Kegan Kline and the unsolved Delphi murders. So far, he has never been charged, but Kline was arrested in August of 2020 on 30 charges of child exploitation and pornography. In the transcript of that 2020 police interview with Kline, Just a few days after the bodies of Libby and Abby were discovered in Carroll County, another school-age girl gave her address to the Anthony Shots profile. That girl was getting off the school bus when she says she saw a man in a ski mask looking into her bedroom window. Now, Kline personally knew the girl and her family. And then 5 days later, police raided the home where Kline lived with his father in Miami County. They found over 100 sexually explicit images of underage girls on several devices. Now, in the 2020 interview, police questioned Kline about whether his father had access to those devices. The person behind Anthony Shots' profile was one of the last communications with Libby German before her murder. And after her death, the Anthony Shots profile told another person that he was supposed to meet up with Libby, but she never showed up. But look at what police told Kegan. Quote, "I can honestly sit here and I'm telling you that I do not believe that you killed Liberty." Kegan Kline is not charged with the killings of Liberty German and Abby Williams, as we've mentioned. Police did tell Kline, though, they believe a second person was communicating with the girls using his devices. Kline did not implicate his father either. Now, police are not saying if he has been questioned in the Delphi case.
So that link that made them go to the actual Kline home was because there was a report of this man who is outside a girl's bedroom window with a mask on, trying to see her after she had communicated with an Anthony Shots profile, talking about trying to meet up with him. And this was days after the murder. This was the 20th of February. Blows your mind that would happen
crazy.
so close together.
And the fact that it was through the Anthony Shots account and then they went to Kegan Kline's home, linking those together.
Right, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So they have this info. They're told about going to and go to this house. It gets a report through the FBI. FBI contacts the local state police. Then we're sitting here and we have them searching their house, visiting their house and stuff from it. So it is so close to the Delphi murders that if you remember back, if you were watching back then, I think one thing that stunned people was because there was a news agency at the time that went and questioned an FBI person during the search and said, was this Delphi related? And remember what threw everybody off, guys? Because that FBI person said, no, this has nothing to do with the Delphi case.
Yeah. Maybe they didn't think it did then.
Well,
I
right,
don't know.
because at this point, we don't have they have no information forensically on their phones. They haven't got them yet. They don't have the phones yet. They don't have any information.
Right.
So, they're just going off of. Now, what's interesting is that's what sent them there, right? That's what got the police to be there in the first place. And because of that reason, do you see any charges on Kegan Kline for going and being outside some girl's window? I don't.
No.
So
yeah.
they did
what
not.
does that make you think?
They did not prove that he was the person actually in the mask hiding outside some girl's window.
Right.
So let's see here further. So as we go through this, I'm sure you guys have probably seen the list. If not, we've got it here of the witness list that has been provided. A lot of Indiana State Police, obviously, U.S. Marshals, the FBI, and Miami County Sheriff. So these people, we're going to see these names again. and show you where we have visually seen these names, like Detective David Vito from the Indiana State Police. You'll see his name a couple of times. He's on the probable cause affidavit. He's also the videotaped statement from Kegan Kline. He's part of that interview that did not happen until August 19th of 2020, which is when Kegan finally was arrested. We know that Deputy Clint or Jeremy Clinton was part of that too. He was also part of the videotaped interview. As we look down, we've got Nicole Robertson. We'll show you if that name looks familiar to you. That's because you saw that on the Ron Logan probable cause affidavit. She is the FBI agent out of Chicago with specialization in CSAM cases, which, if you remember, on the Ron Logan probable cause affidavit, remember, they were collecting every digital device they could while they were there. And we've got, of course, Barbara McDonald. We know of her from the Headline News interview and the podcast from Down the Hill. And we have NetMech representative. And so that's the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children. And, you know, I believe one of the reasons that they're there is because that's where most tips go into, and tips that can go into if somebody has an incident with an internet crime, you can contact the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children and turn in a notification about somebody who is sending inappropriate items or discussions going on. And then we've got Jerry Anthony Kline, aka Tony Kline, right? Who is dad of Kegan. Vincent Kowalski, aka Anthony Schatz. He is the model Alaskan trooper whose photo was used for images as Anthony Schatz. And then we've got Dirk Hayes, who now that Dirk has been publicly by the police acknowledged, we know that we've done stuff on him before, and I know there's other groups who have done that. And like we got, you guys, we know that Dirk Hayes was the next door neighbor to the Klines. And we don't mean like next door neighbor, like another whole house distance. It's almost, I guess, kind of almost like a duplex, but it's a net house next to each other, where Dirk was the next door neighbor to the Klines in Peru. But you'll recognize Dirk's name because he was in the videotape interview with Kegan Kline on August 19th of 2020. And he was also the roommate to Kegan Kline in Las Vegas when they both moved together in March of 2017, right? So yeah, so these people are an interesting group, and we'll get into more specifics of how interesting some of them are. So the first thing we want to show you guys is when we brought up the probable cause affidavit that was the results of the search warrant first done in February 25th of 2017. Now, we want to remind everybody that that day is also the same day that Kegan Kline and his father returned from Vegas that day. This is before he officially moved there, right? So he comes back from Vegas which was this sudden trip that happened like almost right after the murders. And then they return on February 25th. And then this search warrant is issued. And I want to point out while we do this, remember, even though the search warrant was done and they take these devices in 2017, which again, we have videos of that full detail that you can go watch. He wasn't arrested until August 19th of 2020. Yeah. And then we did not even know about him until the Indiana State Police said they were looking for somebody connected to the Indiana State Police. Sorry about that. The Indiana State Police in December of 2021. But I highlighted on here that this is the where we first see David Vito, the trooper David Vito from Indiana State Police. And this is when they serve notice that they're going to arrest him. Now we have a video we're going to show here. Let me stop showing my screen so I can let Mama Bear show hers. Hello, everybody, by the way. I see you.
All right, I'm sharing.
I'm waiting for it to pop up, and here we go. I'll give it a second. All right. You can go.
My name is Sergeant Jeremy Piers, the Public Information Officer with the Indiana State Police out of the Lafayette Post. While investigating the murders of Abigail Williams and Liberty German, detectives with the Carroll County Sheriff's Office and the Indiana State Police have uncovered an online profile named Anthony Schatz. This profile was being used from 2016 to 2017 on social media applications, including but not limited to Snapchat and Instagram. The fictitious Anthony Schatz profile used images of a known male model and portrayed himself as being extremely wealthy and owning numerous sports cars. The creator of the fictitious profile used this information while communicating with juvenile females to solicit nude images, obtain their address, and attempt to meet with them. Pictured on your screen, you'll see images of the known male model and images of the fictitious profile sent to the underage females. We have already identified the male in these images that were used by Anthony Schatz. The male in the photo is not the person of interest in the investigation. Detectives are seeking information about the person who created the Anthony Schatz profile. Investigators would like any individual who communicated, met, or attempted to meet the Anthony Schatz profile to contact law enforcement by utilizing the tip email, Abby and Libby Tip at CACOSHRF.com. Please provide as much information as you possibly can. For example, when you communicated with Anthony Schatz, how you communicated with the profile, what social media applications the account used, and if Anthony Schatz attempted to meet you or obtain your address. If you have saved images or conversations with Anthony Schatz profile, please attach them to your email. Again, if you have any information, please contact law enforcement by utilizing the tip email, Abby and Libby Tip at CACOSHRF.com. Thank you.
So we were pretty shocked when that all first came out, right, guys? Remember when like suddenly it was like boom, all of a sudden it was in the middle of the night. Remember that it was in the
9 o'clock
evening
at night, your time. So,
yeah. And we were like, what the heck just happened, right? You know, like what's going on?
It was unusual to see something happen like that at an unusual time. Yeah, to do with this case.
And then we had like the very next day where the police were then suddenly saying, we have the person arrested already. And we're like, well, wait a minute, why did they just release and say that if
Yeah.
they already have the person arrested? Why are
Right.
they asking for this info if they already have this person who is connected to the Anthony Shots profile? So what we end up learning, and I really, really encourage you to go watch our video. It's called Putting the Puzzle Pieces Together. It's the full timeline that and that we fill in everything that we learned that was happening at the time. Now, right, going backwards in hindsight, that we can see how it all went down. But what we learn is that the only reason that this came out, now you remember what I just showed is he was talked to, Kegan Kline was spoken to in 2017, right? He's talked to in February 25th of 2017. He is not arrested till August 19th of 2020. We don't learn that he is even in jail until December of 2021. Now, by that point, the reason that he had got arrested at that point in 2020 is because they finally paid attention to the forensics on his devices. So it was kind of a drop the ball situation that somebody was supposed to go back and look at this forensic. They did not assign it to an officer, and we do go over this in the probable cause affidavit and stuff with Kegan. We go over all of this, but the person isn't assigned until like the spring. Checks, wants to get all the forensics on the phones, gets that like June-ish. And then after that person goes through of everything that they found forensically on the phones, then there's a warrant issued for him to go into jail. Well, the reason this all came out, we realized, guys, remember, it ends up finding out that it was because there was a reporter who found out that Anthony Shots was a connection. And when she found out that Anthony Shots was a connection, she linked it to Kegan Kline and found out he was already in jail. So she contacts the police and says, we're going to do this story. So we're letting you know and letting you respond and stuff before that, right? So what happens is that they go ahead and suddenly in the middle of the night, there is a release about, oh, we're looking for somebody connected from Anthony Shots. I mean, wow.
Yeah.
And then they had to go the next day and they said that they had Kegan Kline because by that point there were already local news agency, which was Channel 8, that was going with that story, and then all the rest of the television stations suddenly picked it up. Like, wait a minute, how did we go from this to this point? And I mean, it was pretty shocking. I mean, I was excited because I thought, oh my God, we're gonna arrest somebody. It's over, right? I mean, back then we so thought, we're like, oh my God, this is it. It's found, right?
I remember it, and I did really feel like it was going to be solved so quickly after that, and here we are still.
Yeah, how many years later again?
I know, like another 2 since then, is it?
Yeah.
Almost. Jeez.
Yep.
And it doesn't feel like, obviously, even with Richard Allen, it's a long time before people actually go to court and everything. I mean, it's just, it takes so long.
It does.
For all of this to go to court and everything with the attorneys and everything else. And, then so once we had Anthony Shots and that connection, you're like, what else do we need?
Mm-hmm.
But So we've got so here we are, we've got the search warrant. So the FBI sends information to that Indiana State Police Cyber Crimes Unit, and that was all about that the adult male was soliciting female juveniles using social media platforms, and at the time it was Snapchat and Instagram. Thus the reason why you hear that that's the reason why you hear that the murders were suddenly called by some media the Snapchat murders, because that's what they were saying that the communication came from at the time. So, and they talk about the adult male using Anthony shots. So, sorry, I want to make sure I'm going the right way. So let's talk about how we got there when the search warrant, and I just want to do this kind of reminder for everybody. So when they did the search warrant and they go to the Kline's home, right? The house is owned by Tony Kline, which is Kegan Kline's dad. And this is from the interview and comments from when they walk in. So they show on February 25th of 2017 at 12:30 p.m. The search warrant was executed on the residence by Indiana State Police, FBI, and the Peru Police Department. So it's basically under here, we now know, is that Jerry Anthony Kline, which is Tony Kline, and his son Kegan Anthony Kline were located in the residence. At approximately 12:35 p.m. Eastern Time, Jerry Anthony Kline was interviewed by the Indiana State Police Sergeant Kunstek and FBI Special Agent Willman. And by the way, Willman in that, they're also listed, he's listed on the witness list. So they read him his rights, and he agreed to speak with the investigators and confirmed that they had Comcast as their internet provider. Now, when you go through that full probable cause affidavit, which we've done, when they do the search and they find out through Snapchat and all that, they send a request for information from that social media. And then after that, they track to the IP address, which tracks to a Comcast account. They then send, a warrant to the Comcast for the information, and Comcast releases it. And then Comcast is who gave that to them and tracked them to the IP address located at their address. So they ask Jerry Anthony Kline, hey, do you have Comcast as your internet provider? And is it a secured network? And he said yes. And after that point, he also tells them that Kegan does use Instagram and Snapchat. But he tells them also that he doesn't. He doesn't have an Instagram and Snapchat account. Right? So they don't worry about anything after that point. They just listen to Tony, that Kegan is the one with those accounts. Kegan says, yes, I have those accounts. And basically they get him to grab all his devices and bring it with him. But they don't look any further at that point. What do you think about that, guys?
The fact that they also don't take any devices belonging to Tony, I mean, shouldn't they have seized all the devices in the property at least? That's what I
would
feel
think
like.
so.
I would think so. Yes.
Well, yeah.
And see who else in the residence, or potentially other people that live in a partial portion of the residence, may have access to the internet.
The same internet, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Exactly. So they only seized Kegan's.
And they went there like with the idea that they're only looking for one person, right? They're not
Yeah.
thinking that they are looking and linking somebody who is sharing the photos, because again, at this point they don't even know what's on the phones, and they don't have an idea that Kegan Kline is found to have a Dropbox.
Yeah.
So they have no clue at this point that it's even bigger than what they believe. Now, that's not something that we're making up, because remember, we shared in the police interview with Kegan Kline. He says to Kegan, the police officer, that you are opening one of the biggest child CSAM cases in Indiana state history, which is why I did that story and video about the internet, the child international pornography ring, child petty ring that was caught here in the state of Indiana before, because it was like, oh my God, is that going to be bigger than what has been busted here before? Because it has been large, where the servers for that was found in the state of Indiana. And that's why we did that video. But, um, you know, they're sharing the same internet, right, guys? They're sharing the same devices. We
Right.
Yeah.
learned that later. So, you know, and they even address it later with him that they feel like there's another voice talking on there other than Kegan's, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Someone else is communicating. Mm-hmm.
They're like, okay, yeah, this is saying it's an Anthony Shots profile, but we feel like there's two people, different people speaking here.
Why didn't they look further into that? You know,
I mean, in
or
the
did they?
in the transcripts, they do make it sound like, they're very confident that there's a second person. So again, it does make me feel strange that they didn't check the second person's devices at the same time. I mean, there was only two people in the property that they found that day, according to that statement. So why didn't they just take all the devices? It's just strange to me. Anyway,
Right.
Right.
Yep.
because like even though the father, Tony said, yes, my son does use these platforms, why didn't they ever think about Tony?
Right.
It's
Well,
weird.
it's just because when they get there, I mean, again, their mindset was on, we are only coming here to get a man. Remember, even the FBI
Right.
thing says, find a man who is using Anthony Shots profile, who is
Yeah.
talking to girls. So they're thinking a man. They're not thinking possible a CSAM ring, right? Or
Mhm.
or a person who is
Mhm.
using multiple of this Anthony Shots. And one thing that we've seen and we have found in looking up all of this is that it talks about that Vincent, who is the Alaskan trooper whose photo was used, talks about that his photo had been used as Anthony Shots and as other CSAM solicitations before this. And then you're like, well, wow, was that a common photo that was being shared with these guys who were getting photos from girls?
Right. Because didn't he say he shared, or he knew it was used multiple times?
Right. Yeah, he did. He did. Which means, are these guys sharing, hey, this technique, this name, and this photo seems to work, right? This photo works communicating, the girls react to that. And by the way, lots of us are saying that his name is Anthony Schott, so do the same thing.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and then also, again, the other part is that what we learn is that they ask him, have you given access to other people? Have you given your login and stuff to other people? And, he very basically easily admits that he had given it to his dad. And his dad, could have used it, has access to the same devices and that. But that's where it goes into some forensic trouble, because if we share devices with each other and we live at the same house and I'm using your same IP address through Comcast, and then I'm also using all the same devices and I'm logging in into the same account as you, how do the police determine that it's me or it's you? How can they prove it? By just saying the words sound different? Because we did hear that. They did hear it. I would say the only possible way they could do it is if two devices were being used at the same time, saying it was Anthony Schatz, maybe talking to two different people. That would be my only guess.
Right.
Right. I have a question as well. So, did Anthony Shots only communicate with his accounts when he was at home? So, if not, did he do it elsewhere? And would police possibly have those locations as well as, the Wi-Fi at his own address? Because they have the information that he logged into Wi-Fi at a different address at a different time too.
Right.
So I'm wondering whether Anthony Shots, was in different locations while communicating with these girls, and if they have that information.
Boy, I would hope so.
Me too. Because, I know myself, I don't just communicate on Instagram in my house. I do it when I'm outside, when I'm in work, everything. So I wonder
Yeah.
if they have any other locations,
You're,
maybe,
you're
that could
pinging off
possibly link a
multiple
second
locations.
person.
Yep.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
So, as we look forward, we see that, again, this is the videotaped statement now of Kegan Kline that was done on August 19th, 2020. This is when he learns he's under arrest and they read him his rights. And these are showing the officers who are conducting the interview, which both are on the witness list that we were just talking about. So we've seen those names before. So here's a couple more, or a few more that was found. And I'm sharing these two, especially because of just, I'm so appreciative of the officers who have to do this type of job, because when they have to do stuff dealing with CSAM and crimes against children, what a rough job. What a rough job that would be. I don't know how I could mentally handle seeing that every day and dealing with the people they have to deal with, but God bless them for be willing to do that in order to help our kids. So this Brian Bunner, he is a lieutenant. He is for digital forensic unit commander at the Indiana State Police. Then we have Christopher Cecil. He is a commander of the Indiana Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. These are witnesses on the list coming in for the Kegan Kline trial. Also, I put the Indiana State Police Detective Josh Maller and Indiana State Police Sergeant Jason Page. And I just put them up there because they are investigators also and get reports of crimes against children, CSAM. This little blurb I just pulled out of the article. I didn't want to reveal any additional info on this article, but as you can see, it was reports out of Bunker Hill, Indiana. And they are also being called to testify at the Kegan Kline trial. So when you look at that location, I'm going to show you why we have these locations. So Kegan Kline's phones were shown by the data where these girls were located. And he was communicating to girls who were located in Indiana, very close by his home or home of relatives that he had. And as you can tell, we have Bunker Hill is one of the locations. So he did that in Bunker Hill, Galveston, Indianapolis, Kokomo, Monterey, Royal Center, and Hammond, Indiana. So remember, there was information on his phones that they could not determine the age. And if you go through the full findings of the phones, which we're going to touch base on that, you'll see that they put that they cannot determine the age. What does that mean? If they can't determine the age and find the person, then there's no charges on that, guys, right? So we have charges that it could be an underage girl, but they're not sure.
Right. Unless they could find that girl, unfortunately.
And that just breaks your heart. That just breaks your heart. Now, why would we think that he would sit here and have all of these locations be within the area? I'm not saying these are the only ones he had, because the girls they didn't determine, they probably don't have full locations or whatever. We also don't know what information was inside his Dropbox. So, but these, is easy for him to go around and meet, or as somebody who may go around looking in their windows with a mask on, they're not far away to find. So they get photos of these girls, and then somebody named Anthony Schatz, again, what started the first search of the Kline's home was that this girl spoke to an Anthony Schatz, and he wanted to know her address, and it was given. And then there's a guy outside her bedroom window in a mask when she comes home from school. And that is just scary stuff.
Can't
Yeah.
even imagine.
It makes me wonder the intentions of being there. Like, was it a peeping Tom act, or was it an abduction attempt? Like, what the hell?
Right.
Right.
And so you could think of it one of two ways, at least in my mind right now. So either somebody really didn't give a crap that they possibly just murdered two girls, or that two girls were just murdered that they were communicating with, right, as Anthony Schatz. Or this is another totally different Anthony Schatz, right?
Right.
Who isn't scared to take that risk because they are not aware that maybe another Anthony Schatz committed and communicated with girls who were just murdered.
Exactly.
It's just crazy to me.
Mm-mm-mm.
So the next thing on the videotape of Kegan Kline, this is also on his statement when he was arrested, is them asking, okay, did you live by yourself when he went to Vegas? And he is like, no, he had moved out there with a friend. Okay, so this is where we can now say we've known this name for a very, very long time. I don't even know. It's pretty easy. This was, if you remember in the interview, they first interview with the police, they talk about friend one and friend two. So this is, I believe they classified Dirk as friend 2, if I am remembering correctly. And so in here, he says, okay, Dirk Hayes. Dirk Hayes is on the list as a witness. So he's telling the police right here, yeah, Dirk Hayes, he lived in Peru. Remember, this is the next door neighbor. And then he moves to Peru. He's like, well, okay, well, what'd you guys do for employment out there? It's like, oh, a lot of stuff. We had a little medical marijuana business that we would do a delivery service with and stuff. And he said, oh, the officer's like, oh, a lot of money in that, is there? He goes, oh, yeah, there was, yeah. A lot of elderly people, that couldn't leave their house, a lot of stuff like that, didn't want to get around and stuff like that. So he goes, me and my friend that moved out there together, we started it. So then we have some redacted info, which is who knows what, but he goes, so you need like a license to start a company up, right? This is the cop asking him. And he doesn't say anything. And the cop's like, well, how did that work? And he's like, technically it's under the law of that you don't have to get a license. And there's something inaudible. And he says, under the law, this is if you're 18, it's gifting it to someone. And the officer's like, huh. And says, so you're not technically buying it from us or anything. I'm not selling it to you. It just cracks me up.
It's just,
I love your laugh.
I'm sorry. As you're reading it, I'm sitting here laughing. So.
It's like, I'm not selling it to you. You buy a monthly subscription and get that every month as a gift. So
he's generous.
And the cop is like, really? And he says, that's the way you don't need a license or anything. He says, if you had someone pay monthly, you give it to them. And because of their paying for the monthly subscription, he goes, they're paying. And he says, for the service, he goes, they're not paying for the marijuana at all. And the officer's like, he probably thinks he's an idiot.
He is an idiot.
It's just like, oh my God.
It's like, I can't hear this enough. And
Right.
I'm sorry.
So guys, if you're too frail to go outside, you could subscribe to Kegan Kline's subscription or his membership subscription.
The dream, right?
You pay for it
Gift.
because you are you're just not able to leave. You can't leave your home. You will have Kegan Kline as a gift personally deliver your marijuana to you. So
he's the gift that keeps on giving.
He is. And I love how he is explaining to the officer and how you get around not actually having a license for your business. We're not selling it, man. We're gifting it. It's a gift.
Am I being gifted Netflix then?
Oh my God. The only thing that makes me laugh more than this is looking up Kegan Kline's Wikipedia.
Oh my gosh.
And you know what? We don't have that on the video, but later you guys, you need to Wikipedia look up Kegan Kline.
The lyrics to his songs do me in.
Oh my God. His career. I mean, I'm so impressed. I can't believe it.
Maybe you could find some pictures from his photography business.
I think they found the pictures from his photography business, unfortunately.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
He is oh my God.
He's too
Sick.
Mhm.
So let's go. Let's go to the next. Here's another name that you saw on the witness list, and you'll recognize it. And it is Nicole Robertson. And where do we see Nicole Robertson's name? She is on the probable cause affidavit for them to search Ron Logan's house. She is the FBI agent that is out of Chicago, and that she specializes in this crimes against children. And that is why, especially, that you saw the list of all those electronic devices. They said, if we can find them, let's find them. Now, remember, this was on March 17th of 2017. In my opinion, I don't believe there's anything with Ron Logan in the case itself of him, especially him committing the actual murders, because it came out later. We learned later that he was searched. I guess it wasn't a surprise for me, because they searched a lot of houses around there. And but he did lie to cover up his driving and stuff like that, because he did have his suspended license. He wasn't supposed to be driving. He was driving his vehicle around, and he was driving himself around, and he tried to lie about that and cover it up. And so there ended up being technically 3 search warrants conducted on his home. The one search was the outer part of his house when they were trying to look for the girls. And then we have the 2 search warrants in his house. One was because of him being on probation because of that driving under the influence, and they went to search for stuff. So this was what they thought they would find, what they were specifically looking for. And this is right, the month from the murders. What are your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I really don't think there is a connection with Ron Logan and what happened to Abby and Libby. I think he was looked into really thoroughly, and they would have found a connection by now. Yeah, that's what I think.
I agree with Paige. They searched him thoroughly. Granted, unfortunately, it did take place on his property, so of course you're going to have to look into that person.
Yeah,
that's reality.
It's just what's going to happen. Of course,
Right.
he was going to be questioned. Of course, his home was going to be searched.
Yep. And the
Yeah.
fact that he lied on top of it, that didn't
makes him look suspicious. So
exactly. Yep.
Well,
Yeah,
and they did arrest him for that. They arrested him for
Yeah.
driving while he was on probation, lying that he was on probation. They went and
he
checked
went
his
to
home.
jail for it.
Yeah,
Yes.
they arrested him for violation of probation. But after that, nothing happened. There wasn't anything information. They didn't find anything while they were searching. There
Right.
wasn't anything at all that came out. And they checked his phones, because we know that they shared the data and stuff of his phones of where he was
Right.
located, and but
What
there
text
wasn't
messages
any.
he received at what time.
Yeah. And it's not going to be shocking. He's nearby. He lives there. It was literally done in part of his property where the bodies were found.
Exactly.
So
Isn't it crazy to think that he was probably at home when those girls' bodies were being left there?
Yeah.
Or he came home shortly afterwards. That's crazy to think. Scary.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very
Yep.
much.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't a good look. That's just reality. Wasn't a good look for him.
Yeah. We know that if there was something big and they found something additional on his phone, like he had images, right? He had communications. He knew that, they were going to be out there or something, then that would be a different thing. But
or someone finally came forward and said they witnessed Ron Logan there talking to the girls or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep. Yep.
But nobody has really come forward to say we saw Ron Logan on the trail that day at that time, because his phone proves he really wasn't there at that time, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Well, and a lot of people said that they thought that he looked like Bridge Guy, but there was a lot of people that they said looked like Bridge Guy, right? A lot of people
Okay.
got turned in to say it could be that. And you know why? It's because of those, I'm going to say it, crappy sketches. The
Sure.
sketches were not reliable when the public sat here and for 2 years we're thinking that this first sketch is what we should be looking for, and then suddenly a new sketch is totally released
Yeah.
and blows everybody's mind, and then everybody's going back and forth of, did that replace it? Is that part of it? Was he looks
And
younger? Is he younger? Is he older? Is he this? Is it two people? Right? It went all over the place.
Right.
law enforcement themselves even confused everybody with, they said, first of all, you can disregard that first sketch now, focus on the second sketch. And now later on, we know Doug Carter is saying that he believes that if you put those two sketches together, we will find the Bridge Guy, which he now believes is Richard Allen. So in the beginning, they did kind of say to step away from the first one. And the families spent 2 years putting the picture of the first sketch absolutely everywhere they could put it. And
Right.
then they felt thrown back and they had to kind of start all over again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, still confuses me,
And
the sketches.
remember that was a surprise to the family too.
Yeah, yeah,
Remember? Because it was like, I think they didn't even tell them till like that morning.
I think so. Yeah,
That
It
the
was
other
either
I
one
that
think
was
morning
coming.
or
Calvin
the
spoke
morning
on that.
before that they were like,
Mhm.
oh, and here this goes, and now we're releasing this, and we're like, what the heck
Right.
is going on?
Right.
And that's where you're like, the sketch is just not, I mean, at that point, for me, honestly, at that point, in my opinion, I was like, I just felt like I couldn't rely on the sketches to
Yes.
really help us
And like
figure out who it was.
But
in the
another
press
point.
conference.
Sorry.
Oh,
Ken.
sorry, Mama Bear.
No,
No,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
Ken. Well, no, we don't know who actually was giving the description of those, to make those sketches. I mean,
Yeah,
we had said amongst ourselves, let's just say if it was someone who was 15 years old, I'm just picking a number. This is just, again, some discussion. Someone can look older to a 15-year-old, whereas someone who's of age, 20s, 30s, 40s, and so on, you can pretty much give a better description because,
right.
they're
And that's
of
what
your age.
Becky said that herself. Yeah.
Right.
And I never thought about it that way. And it's a really, really good way to think. Because if you're younger, you might see someone as being really old. But when you're kind of mid-20s, 30s, that kind of thing, you see people for how old they are.
Exactly.
Yeah, good point.
So then we go to another witness who is listed in the witnesses, and that is Barbara McDonald. Now, we knew pretty early on that the Barbara McDonald interview was being used by the police. And that is mainly due to, this is when suddenly, at the same time, like within a few days after finally we learn that there was an Anthony Shots profile, which was on the 6th, and that Kegan Kline was arrested because he also admitted that he created the Anthony Shots profile. So there is no speculation on that. He admitted that, and they have those on his devices. So we know that that is the case. But when Barbara McDonald's information came out on her podcast that she does, which was called Down the Hill, about the Delphi murders in the early stages of the case, not all of this interview was able to be released. And we knew that And remember when everybody was like, oh my God, we have got to go watch the headline news interview because they are going to show her speaking to Kegan Kline. And everybody was waiting for this huge, because again, we didn't know anything, right? We had no clue of if this was going to be over for the case, like this was it. And then when you go, we're like, wow, that wasn't much of anything. But let me unshare my screen so that Mama Bear can show you. We've got a video and stuff here, a clip of the Barbara McDonald interview that will show you guys. And we apologize for showing his face.
Yeah, right. I was just thinking about it. Ugh.
And listening to his voice.
Ugh.
All right. Got to get through a commercial here quickly.
I feel like I'm being harassed completely.
Did you have anything to do with the murders of Abby or Libby?
Not at all. And I gave up my DNA, a hair follicle test. I've done everything they wanted me to.
In December, Delphi investigators announced that catfish account Anthony Schatz was active on Instagram and Snapchat in 2016 and 2017, and they asked for anyone who interacted with that profile to come forward. But more than a year ago, then 26-year-old Kegan Kline admitted to investigators that he was behind the fake profile and that he used it to ask young girls for nude pictures and videos. Tell me about Anthony Schatz. Why did you create that profile?
I don't really know. I was just lonely, you know what I mean? Just talking to people. I don't know why I did it really.
And were you ever trying to meet these girls in real life that you were talking to?
No, never.
Just 11 days after the murders of Abby and Libby, task force investigators served a search warrant on the home that Kegan shared with his dad. At the time, the FBI told the Lafayette Journal and Courier they found nothing to indicate a connection to the Delphi case. Kegan's electronics were confiscated then, but he wasn't arrested until 3 years later. He's now facing 30 counts of child pornography and child solicitation in Miami County, Indiana, unrelated to the Delphi murders. He says, though, that Indiana State Police told him Anthony Schatz had been communicating with Libby before her murder. So why do you think investigators are putting so much focus on you right now?
I have not a clue. I think it's because they said I was the last person to talk to her, is what they've told me.
And then she shows up at the bridge and they're abducted and later found dead.
Right.
And that was not you?
No, 100% not.
Kegan says he has no memory or knowledge of communicating with Libby, and investigators haven't confirmed if what he says is true. Do you think you're going to be charged with anything related to Abby and Libby's murder?
No, I don't.
So the state police haven't threatened that?
No.
Interesting.
The way he kind of answered the last questions when she said, there's nothing that can kind of implicate you to those murders. And he's like, no. Like, he just seems so sus. I don't know. I don't believe a word he's saying.
No.
Well, that's it. And then we later learned, though, that they discussed with him and said, remember, we saw from the first video, they sat there and said, we don't believe it's your dad or that it's you. We think it's somebody else speaking. We don't believe you commit the murders, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know?
But I think he has knowledge, possibly.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. So I am trying to show my screen here. Sorry, it's on his face still.
A sec.
Yeah.
So we've got all this. He says it's not him. Remember, at the beginning, they kept saying this has nothing to do with the Delphi murders. We found nothing in there that relates it to the Delphi murders. They had not gone through the forensics of the phones yet, guys. This was not there. Remember, the search was because they sat here. Oops. They sat here and they were there because of the other case. The person, Anthony Schatz, showing up, remember, again, February 20th at a girl's house who communicated with them with a mask outside her bedroom window. Okay, so here we go. We're going to talk about that the Indiana State Police expands the list of social media that had been connected to the murder case. Now, we kind of talk about this and stuff before, talking about stuff that's on the devices, dangers of social media. If you go watch that video, I go through all of that stuff with it. Also, we're going to end up talking about Yellow, and that is also a couple of videos on it. So the Delphi murders connection, what do we have? So they finally go through the phones. Finally, somebody looks at the crap, right? At 2020, we've got this info. They have the info now. Police finally had the info forensically done. An officer gets assigned of it April of 2022. And then we sit here and go in. What do they see on there? They see the profile photo used for Anthony Schatz, the social media profile. Here's this. Well, guess what? This is Vincent. Vincent is the model and Alaskan officer. And they address it with him. I'm going to undo my stuff here. For Mama Bear can show another video real quick. We're going to meet Vincent on this. And so they go and they talk to Vincent, this police officer who used to be a model, who was being used as this, right? They have to go check and see, is this guy involved? I think the other reason they did that is because, remember, I believe when they had it set up, they were trying to say that person, that Anthony Schatz profile was saying, oh, I moved from Alaska to Indiana. That's what he was telling the girls.
Yeah.
So this is Vincent. He is on the witness list as well. He will be coming to speak.
Thanks for joining us on this Monday night at 6 o'clock. We kick it off tonight with this story. It's an update and it's exclusive here on 13. Police say that his personal pictures were used to lure young girls, a cop victimized in a catfish scheme, and then thrust into the Delphi murder investigation. Only on 13 tonight, our Jenny Runovich talks with the police officer about the fake social media profile that stole his photos.
You just search my name. There's 100 accounts, fake accounts of me.
Vincent Kowalski says his photos have been swiped on social media for years. These pictures used as bait for catfishing scams. But the former model and current cop was shocked at what happened this month. While working his beat in Alaska, someone sent him a screenshot from Indiana. His face and those old photos front and center in the Delphi murder investigation. Kowalski took a few minutes to talk with us about it before heading into night shift.
So I was like, that's got to be like some fake page, or it's got to be photoshopped or something. Just seeing your face blasted all over the news is crazy.
Indiana State Police say Officer Kowalski's teen modeling pictures were stolen and used to catfish young girls. Kegan Kline, jailed in a child exploitation case, admitted to creating the fake profile. Kline has not been charged in the murders.
It pissed me off, but I'm glad they found the guy behind the account, but they got to find the guy who hurt those those two young girls. Soliciting videos from young girls, like that's disgusting. And it makes me sick. But to know that two young girls possibly lost their life because of my picture, it's the worst of the worst.
Kowalski is a father of two girls, so the crimes feel personal. He's also angry that his picture was scammed yet again. He's even put a warning on his own Instagram page about bogus profiles he's tried to block.
For a long time I did. I reported every single account I came across, but then I just eventually just stopped because these social media websites aren't here to help anyone right now, and they got to do better. I don't know why there's not a verification process before you even are able to make your account.
500 tips have come into state police because of this fake account. Officer Kowalski just hopes it leads to justice for Libby and Abby.
At the end of the day, it breaks my heart, and couldn't imagine losing my girls. So they have all my love and support, and just wish I could support them more.
So
I love it.
yeah, and if you noticed on there, you saw them slide across the hundreds. He said hundreds.
Yes.
At times his photo has been used. How would that happen? Because if predators find out a thing that works, they're going to share what works.
Right.
Yeah.
They're going to share how they got girls to send photos and what works. And, you know, you see that go across of all those accounts is just unbelievable.
Sad. And like you said, him having two girls on top of it, I mean, it's just got to be heartbreaking, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm going to make a note on the side. In my opinion, he is a very good-looking man. And obviously that's why he has to stay on the bike. He can't even just have a normal interview. He has to be on the bike at all times to have those kind of abs. That's just a note.
I'm thinking he has a very busy life, I imagine. So it's probably
I'm
the only
sure
time
he
he can
does.
get in. Yeah. I just
But
feel for
just
him
like,
though. Like,
yeah.
yeah.
Yep. So that's, and he is on the list to be here. So let's talk about what these charges have come up from. So again, we've got with 30 charges. We saw in the probable cause affidavit that we looked at all of these different charges that are going on. We have that when Kegan was picked up, he had 6 devices that he took in. 6. He took. Except he forgot one, which was his current phone, which at the time was an Apple iPhone 5C. He waited 2 days later to turn that in on February 27th, 2017. So he sat there and did not take the phone that he was using now. He did not take the phone that was current with 2017 info on it. Only the 6 devices. So he had at least 7. So just kind of briefly to go through this, all the phones were named different stuff. He used different media, and on each phone it was shown which different apps that he used for it. This one was obviously Kik and Snapchat, just because of the reason that it would disappear. He also portrayed himself as a female teen using the name Emily Ann 45. So that's the other big point, that he didn't just use Anthony Schatz. He used Emily Ann 45, and that's what was recovered from the different Kik and Messenger and Snapchat stuff. So they found CSAM on this particular phone as well, and he used and saved it to the device, and he shared it out. And it depicted children ages 12 to 17 years of age. And there were also files located on this device that depicted children between the approximate ages of 3 and 11 showing SA by an adult. There were also images showing possible drugs and images showing Kegan with a black handgun. So people, you got the teens and stuff like that, but you've got ages 3 to 11 people were on there that were, there were files on there for that. So, and then there was a discussion involving on May 14th of 2016, where it involved a user of the iPhone and another party sharing Dropbox public links containing CSAM and media files. Okay, that's another person. That is another person he's sharing images with. He has the Dropbox with, and he has media files with CSAM. Now, just for anybody not familiar, CSAM is child sexual abuse material. They have used that name. They use now really instead of child pornography because they feel like the word pornography means that it was okay or there's an agreement upon it. It isn't. It is sexual abuse materials of children. So that's why it's called that. And they showed that this user of this iPhone 4 portrayed themselves as Emily Ann 45. And they also used that to identify themselves on the Galaxy S4. The phone 3G was named Keggy. How nice. And it talks whether stuff is secured or not like that or anything like that. They have people posing partially nude, other images. The ages of the females were indeterminate. And that was what we talked about earlier. I brought up. And they see that the sender of this is Kegan. The user saved over 200 still images to the device, which contained location data that was embedded into the file. Approximately 27 of those images depicted females who appeared to be at least 14 years of age or older. So I want to everybody point out, there were 200 still images on this phone that were saved, but they only were able to identify that 26 of them, of the still images, appeared to be 14 years of age. Right? So some of those 27 images were geolocated in Indiana cities, including Bunker Hill, Galveston, Indianapolis, Kokomo, Monterey, and Royal Center. And then it talks about how geolocating tracking works. It refers to the use of location technology such as GPS or IP address to identify and track the whereabouts of connected electronic devices. So that because these devices are often carried on an individual's person, geolocation is often used to track the movement and location of people and surveillance. Samsung X5. This was named after his business he started, which is Kline Photography. This was factory reset on February 23rd of 2017. Talks about his age at the time, some chat messages. He used Meet Me, Facebook, Messenger, and Snapchat. Talked about the conversations. Talked about the name of the phone, different dates. He used it in 2015. Powered up on different dates. And talks about many conversations. Several conversations appeared to be with female teens, 12 to 13 years of age. He used 2 profiles on the phone, Kegan Kline and Emily Ann, who at the time people kept saying it was Kegan's stepsister, which it wasn't, but I'm not going to identify that name. The multiple CSAM and media files found saved to the device, the way the files were named indicate that the images were captured by a screenshot and are received from Snapchat or Skype. And it depicted children 12 to 17, either nude, partial nude, or essay. There's Netbooks Premium tablet, same thing. There's the dates, numerous conversations, Facebook Messenger, Kik, Messenger, Meet Me, Skype, and Snapchat. It suggested conversations to be moved to Kik or Messenger or Snapchat. You know why that is. It'll disappear. The Apple shows you the date, shows you his age, and it shows still images that were found on the device with SA was also on it. And these images were found from Hammond, Royal Center, Indiana. iPhone 5C. This is the phone that was named Kegan's phone. Turned into the Indiana State Police not till the 27th, 2 days later. The user of the device used Facebook, Instagram, Meet Me, Snapchat, Twitter to communicate or chat. Much of the data from these applications was deleted from the device. The examination found multiple still images saved to the device that depicted females posing nude, partially nude. The age of the females were indeterminate. They can't tell on that. On approximately the 27th, remember 2 days later at 9:48 a.m., the user of this phone cleared or deleted the Safari web browser history and website data from the device, and during the examination, some information was removed. While looking over the digital forensic examination report, they noticed the Apple 5 phones deleted multiple items off of the phone before turning it into law enforcement. On February 25th, the search warrant was served on the Kline's residence. The 27th, Kegan called the Indiana State Police to turn in the Apple iPhone 5C. At approximately 7:30 p.m. on the 25th, after he got home, right, he concluded his discussion with the police. They drop him back off. Then they find out that, he goes through this stuff, and approximately 9:19 p.m., he started to uninstall and delete apps from this phone. At 9:19 p.m., he had deleted Snapchat. He tries to pop this stuff back on. He pops it back out. Then on February 26th at 1:12, he uninstalled and deleted Meet Me from his phone. The user Snapchat, he put it back on the 27th at 1:28 p.m., popped it back out. He admitted to using these applications to chat with underage girls. He said the evidence contained in these applications were destroyed when the user deleted them from the device before turning that into law enforcement. The device that was used during the 17th. Oops. Crazy. So, Indiana State Police, we've got all this stuff. This stuff is finally found, right? They had it. They had it 2017. Nobody looks at it. Nobody charges him. Nobody does anything yet till 2020. We don't know why. Everybody asked that question. So the stuff is reviewed. Here's what's weird. All of this time goes back. He's in jail. August 19th, 2020. He's arrested. But April 11th of 2022 of this last year, last spring, all of a sudden, it is expanded of the list of social media that has been connected to the Delphi murder case. So there's another connection here, and it was the Yellow app. I've done big coverage on it. I've investigated the Yellow app. Please go watch that video we're going to play the video when the police suddenly announced about this and what happened, because it was done late, not till 2020. Mama Bear? Here we go. And add to stream.
Just a quick word from our sponsor.
Ashley's biggest mattress event of the year happening now through March 12th. For 3 days only, shop the orange event. Ashley Sleep Doorbusters. Your choice of comfort. Queens at $399.99. Kings at $499.99. Plus 60.
Oh, that's right. This is audio. I forgot to.
Don't snooze. These mattress deals are only for a limited time.
This was from
Hurry into your
Newsweek.
local Ashley store or visit ashley.com for better sleep and savings. Only at Ashley. See store at ashley.com for details.
Sorry, we can't avoid that on
Yubo's
the
social
speech.
media app lands in the middle of a double homicide probe by Isla Slisco. Police investigating the homicide of 2 teenage girls in Delphi, Indiana, are asking for information from anyone who contacted a fake profile on the social media app Yellow, currently known as Yubo. Police are investigating a potential link between a profile, which they say used photos of a male model to elicit communications with underage girls, and the 2017 killings of teenagers Abigail Williams, 13, and Liberty German, 14. Sadly, there are an estimated 500,000 online predators active each day, according to the Child Crime Prevention and Safety Center. Indiana State Police, ISP, investigators on Monday called for information from anyone who had contact with the Yellow account Anthony_Shots after previously issuing a call for those who had contact with the same profile on other platforms. This profile was being used from 2016 to 2017 on social media applications, including but not limited to Snapchat and Instagram. If you or someone you know communicated with the profile, Anthony_Shots on the social media application called Yellow, currently known as Yubo, please contact law enforcement Abby and Libby Tip at kakasheriff.com or 765-822-3535, states an ISP release. Yubo, based in Paris, France, claims to have over 50 million users worldwide and describes itself as a social live streaming platform that celebrates the true essence.
Yeah, so we've got this sudden release that doesn't happen until April of 2022. And then it goes silent. It really, truly goes silent. Because we all, suddenly are wondering why, why was this released? It was released once. The news picked it up. And guess what we heard with it? We heard that the investigators were going to France. That's where the Yellow app was started. Now, they would have to go to France for what? To probably check if the servers would have shown the communications and stuff. Yellow app that you need to go watch. The Yellow app allowed somebody, a man could lie about as an adult, lie about his age, such as they did with these social media apps. And they would go in there and lie about it. Kids would be connected on this Yellow app. It's like a Tinder for kids. And it's for them to literally meet new kids, new things. They don't realize it's adults, so they think they're talking to kids. But when the guys go in there, they can track where you are because it automatically connected to your Instagram account and your Snapchat account. And it could locate you. And you could say, who can I talk to that's within so many miles? And then it went kind of it went there. We heard they're going to France. We heard about the Yellow app. Now they wanted this Yellow app specifically. If you talk to an Anthony Shots using Yellow app, contact the state police. This was last year. This wasn't 2021 when they finally released that they had Kegan Kline and the Anthony Shots in jail since 2022. And then we don't hear about it until 2021. All of a sudden, this one specific app was mentioned and then they were going to France, and then nothing. What do you guys think about that one?
Yeah, it's been silence ever since. It's really strange. Makes me think, maybe they found a lot of information that they definitely don't want to share anywhere.
Yeah.
And the information that you found to do with that and the video you shared about the Yubo app, the Yellow app, you guys should definitely watch it if you want to learn more about that app, because it's definitely a strange place that children definitely shouldn't be on. No.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we've seen, like, it's not just a United States thing, because before it came here,
No.
other countries were already having issues with it. Over in Europe, we had, the Irish Times, who published issues about it, that was about trouble in Ireland. And then we showed, when we covered the Yellow, about local stuff here, that kids are, 11, 12 years old, meeting up with, suddenly they find out men who are 28, 30, 40, whatever age, and they're being, hurt.
And the laws, too, which we looked up, are absolutely ridiculous for, police departments being able to report things. It's really crazy.
Yeah. And I mean, we found out about that suddenly, this place that had all this money, they had this, update of, that they were going to France, right? And then we suddenly look up and find, wait a minute, they opened up 2 headquarters in the United States. They opened a headquarters in the UK. This was started by 12 app. They only own 1 app. They don't sell advertisement, people. They only make money by the people who want to pay to be able to see more people, to promote their to be able to connect to them, to more people. They can search by country. They can search by within 50 miles of them. They can search by any of that stuff. We find out that they had supposedly a location in Florida and New York City. And you're like, well, why would they have to go to France to get info if there's headquarters here? I mean, you got to watch the Yellow video and the updated Yellow video, because it talks about also the policy changes that Yubu created, about whether they will cooperate with police and what you have to do it. And it's a bunch of crap. But anyway.
Yeah.
Not that I'm going to, I'm trying to hold back a little bit. Some of that stuff just gets me so mad. It just gets me so mad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When we're talking about our kids.
Yes.
So we hear about this. We're from the police. We hear, and they're serious. They go out, which is odd to me, because they only kind of said it once. Like, if they really wanted to say, yellow, 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 you would think that it would have been repeated a bunch of times. It was kind of like, we're letting everybody know, we if you did contact anybody of Anthony's shots through Yellow, please contact the police. Do this, use the line, right? So they did that. We're going to France, and then it's silent. So was it to get more info, or was it to let the person know at the time, we now are going to Yellow to get information? Who knows? So we talk about the expansion of that. Again, this was April 11th. And remember, this is the Delphi task force who says this profile has been connected to social media platform. So yes, we know that Richard Allen has been arrested, and that they say, he's bridge guy. And I have no doubts that he's involved at all, because in my opinion, when you say that you're there, you're parked there, and that you happen to have the same clothing on that bridge guy has, and then you never got rid of it, and you're driving the same vehicle, and you say you were looking at fish, And then, you know, from 80 feet in the frickin' air.
Yeah.
And the water was lower.
Right.
So.
Exactly. Exactly. And then you have to, and I feel you have to say you were there because you know that people saw you. You know that those 3 girls saw you. And that you know that you were even seen going to your vehicle. So in my opinion, and also because the police have said this email is still active for tips. This phone number is still active for tips because they're looking for somebody else. And in Richard Allen, they said they were not going to release all the information because they were looking for possibly somebody else. And I don't think you can ignore that there's somebody else involved.
I agree with you.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I think they made it pretty clear in the latest press conference.
So, you know, the question is, what could have Richard Allen been using Anthony shots? Could have, right? He could be. Maybe they have an Anthony Shots account connected to Richard Allen. But it appears to be that they really believe that there was communication, and you can't ignore, you know, Kegan Kline said that he created the Anthony Shots and that, you know, it could have been shared out with other people. And you can't ignore that Anthony Shots was communicating with Libby. That's too, I mean, this would be the huge, most unbelievable coincidence ever that some child predator was trying to get a hold of her at the same time a murderer met her at the park.
That's what I find really hard to believe.
Yes, absolutely. Chances are slim to none, in my opinion.
Yeah. So the big thing that we want to remind everybody is that obviously Kegan Kline, his dates are coming up. Who knows if those will get pushed back? They could get pushed back. The other thing that could actually happen during pretrial on March 30th is we could actually find out that he makes a plea deal and it's announced during pretrial and they don't ever go to jury trial. And, you know, then we've got the jury trial date would be May 10th through the 18th. And, you know, when you look at this list of people and you look that they've been involved in search warrants, in interviews, you know, a friend who's delivering gifts to the elderly with you. I mean, come on. I don't know if we have those type of subscriptions around here to receive gifts, but you know, I guess check your local listings. And then you got, I mean, the big one for me is you have Daddy, who is a witness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was a bit of a shocker.
Okay. I'm going to guess that he is probably not a cooperative witness and he's being subpoenaed, right? Yeah. Now, the one thing I do also want to bring up that I don't want to pass by is that Dirk Hayes, who is his buddy in the delivering gifts to the elderly in Las Vegas, has been arrested. I know you'll all be shocked. As we've known this guy and have watched his background, he has been arrested twice that we know of. Once after the first initial interview that Kegan Kline did, and then also just recently it was 2020, right? No, sorry. What year are we in?
2022.
2022.
22.
Sorry, I don't know what year I'm in.
Hey, it was to help the gift giving.
Yes, he was continuing the gift giving in Vegas, because what are these senior citizens going to do if they don't get their pot gift? So, but what's interesting is that we found also that Dirk Hayes created another business in in Vegas. One was a photography business. He does photography too.
Hey,
Like Kegan
Sin
Kline's
City.
business he started.
Sin City.
Sin City Photography. So I don't know who inspired who. Whether Dirk inspired Kegan or Kegan inspired Dirk. But out of the goodness of their heart to do photography and gift giving in Vegas.
Hey, and don't forget Area 52.
Oh,
yeah.
Please don't forget that one.
That was the name of their gift giving.
Yeah. That was their first gift giving. But
I hope everyone's following.
Yeah. Everybody's like, what? What is happening?
They're going to have a lot of new subscribers to their gift.
Right. They're going to be like, what is going on? Well, here's the thing. You know, you have to realize that these guys are idiots.
Yeah.
They're absolute idiot. They're not tricky. I don't know how they get away with anything, honestly. I really don't. But you know, I think that one, I can definitely say I do agree that Tony Kline is probably a witness to things that Kegan Kline did. In my opinion, I would argue that you could possibly believe that he may have partaken in viewing the CSAM material because he uses the other devices. Kegan shared that information. Kegan shared he had access to all of that. So the shocker was that he never got charged with any of the CSAM, but he never got caught with it, guys. He never had his own devices confiscated. They never asked him, did you look at this? They, you know, now could have they started viewing it, is one person on at the same time as the other, and then you have to figure that out. But, you know, Daddy is coming to testify. And is that going to be a shocker to Kegan Kline, guys? Do you think he's shocked when his attorneys probably showed him who's on this list?
Oh, I think completely he's shocked. And I have a feeling that he's going to have a few things to say about that, in my opinion.
If anything, I think he's definitely going to try to dig a deeper hole for Kegan and try to make himself look better.
Oh yeah, he's not gonna do anything that
he's gonna implicate himself.
Right. I mean, not at all.
He's gonna throw Kegan under the bus for everything. If he has anything to do with it, he's definitely not gonna say so.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, I'm sure that, you know, his attorney, he's going to have an attorney he's going to be speaking to make sure what he's saying and what he isn't saying, right? Because he could sit here and flip, you know, just screw up and say, you know, you know, did they like, oh, how do you know that he was doing this? Did you know he had the Anthony shots? Because remember, anything he says in court can be used against him too. So if they're like, well, did you ever sign in to Anthony shots? Right? They'll ask him.
You have to swear. Swear before you even talk.
Yep.
To tell the truth. And we know he's not going to tell the truth. I really don't feel like. I mean, he's the father of Kegan, and Kegan definitely doesn't tell the truth.
No.
No.
So.
Well, and remember, we've got the, we know, guys, that they've already started, where they had some of the level of the felonies that Kegan is facing are lowered. Some of them are lowered out of the 30, and we know that some of them were dropped.
Yes.
So, I mean, but he still faces a lot. Remember, he's been in jail without bond ever since he's been arrested. And the big shock to Kegan was the same shock as the general public, because even Kegan asked when they arrested him, he was like, I thought that was all fine because that was 3 years ago. Like, why are you arresting me now? That's the same question we all thought. Like, what the heck took you 3 years to send him to jail?
Yeah.
To let him continue doing that, or anything. Although in his interviews he said once he got busted and stuff with it, then he was like, oh, I'm all good now. I'm not doing anything like that anymore.
But why do we still think that some of these charges have been dropped or lowered? What are the reasons?
I mean, there's a bunch in there. I mean, obviously the suspicion of the timing of when it happened, because you have the river search that was going on when Kegan was being talked to by at Grissom Air Force Base, right? By many levels of different law enforcement, not just Carroll County, not just, right? You have different levels in there. What are they talking about? At that point, CSAM had already started to be reduced. So, are they talking to him about Delphi? Well, they had to be, because right when the water search happened after that, they admitted that the water search was about Delphi, and they were looking for something related to the Delphi murders. So what could that be that he could provide? What were they looking for in the Wabash River for 5 weeks after that search? Then, we hear, after that search is when Kegan Kline got reduced. And it was after Richard Allen got arrested. So, then we're like, okay, were those related items? We don't know. I don't think we know the full story until, and I think we'll get closer to the full story when they find the enough evidence to this other person they're looking for, right?
Exactly.
That other person, whoever they're looking for. And I think in order to do that, they wouldn't need they can't rely on Kegan Kline telling them something about somebody. He's a freaking habitual liar.
Right.
I think they would have to have either solid evidence, which they must not have, or that person would already be arrested by now, or maybe the cooperation even by Richard Allen, saying who else was involved or what part somebody may have played. But I definitely know and feel in my heart that based on what the police said, that this has busted up some level of a child petty ring, a child CSAM ring that has shared images. And we have covered some arrests that have happened after Kegan Kline, which is another video that we've done that you can go watch, of literally people who have been busted after Kegan Kline. And we are going to do an update of that hopefully fairly soon. Unfortunately, there's so many that are being busted that it's hard to keep track of and prepare and get ready for. But I definitely think that it's going to bring on that.
Agreed. There's more than meets the eye. We don't know everything that's going on behind the scenes, I feel, in my opinion. I think there's a lot more going on.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, we've discussed it amongst ourselves, but again, that's in our opinion, just things we've discussed and so forth. But I think there's a lot more that we don't know yet. And I think we're going to know, I would say, in the next couple months, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm hoping that will. And I'm just looking at the posts and stuff like that. Oh, Phil Bond, he says Tony Kline has always hidden behind something or somebody. Always told my girls from when they were little to stay away from him. So Phil, it sounds like you're from Peru, maybe area. And I agree with you. He's hidden behind it, and I think no matter what, Kegan Kline was the low man on the totem pole to be busted.
Yeah.
He's definitely not the brains of any operation. I take that back. He is for the Area 51 subscription program for the elderly, but I don't know.
We think. We don't know about that either. So
Maybe he considered that nonprofit work. I don't know what he did, but
it's a tax write-off,
Yeah. He thought he was doing community service. Kelt, I think the initial charges could have been whittled down after law enforcement did more research. That's true, Kelt, but you would think actually that the charges could have been made to be fined more, only because we had more people that they haven't identified. Only 27 of the 200.
Right.
Come on.
I mean, that's a lot. You figure, and not to know, be able to figure out the ages. I mean, it's actually very sad,
Well, and you know what the other thing is? I think the other horrible thing is just that, I mean, the one of the girls, the girl that was that had this mask man, Kegan knew that family.
Yeah.
Kegan knew that family. Now, I don't know whether it was Kegan outside in the mask. I have no clue. And
Right.
I can't tell you I have a suspicion either way, whether that would have been Kegan or not been Kegan. We do know it was an Anthony Schatz profile who did it. And obviously the police don't think it was Kegan or have enough info that it's Kegan because they didn't charge him. It was only with the CSAM. Later they charged him. They didn't charge him with stalking this girl.
French has comments. I don't know if you want to read them.
The Keg and the Stein bar closed a few years ago after Fouts resigned. The Keg and the Stein was a meeting place for all the known suspects, including Ron, Logan, Kurtz, Fouts, Paldinos, Yab, Ellis, and crew. Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. You know what? And I suspected it could be a drinking hole because when you live that close together, I mean, it's not hard that a bar is going to be in there. You got Richard Allen, who had drinking problem. You had Kegan Kline say that his dad had a drinking problem, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Oh, Dustin Andrew. Would any of you like to be on my podcast tonight? Justice Served Daily. Dustin, can you send me an email at justiceserveddaily@gmail.com? Let me know some information about that. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not a French 6290. I'm not surprised at all that they know each other. Not at all. The thing is that's what the police are trying to prove. So, anybody who has info about knowing that these people connected, that does need to go to the police. Please contact the authorities to let them know if you know about anything. If you haven't already, you may have already done that, but I'm not surprised by that.
The investigation is ongoing. I mean, it's, they are still asking for tips. The tip line is still open.
Right.
I would still love to know, excuse me, and who the DNR officer is too. That's another thing.
Yeah, I will say we have done, we have been doing some research. on
Yes.
the DNR officer discussion and in there because not that the DNR officer had something to do with Delphi murders or
No,
anything like
no,
that.
I'm not
We're just
saying that.
talking about knowledge of that and why he would feel so comfortable just making a phone call and just meeting up.
Right. I mean, it's a small town, you know. Everybody.
Oh, in Logansport, Phil. You know what? I knew that Kegan was named after a strip club. I knew that. I knew that one. Which isn't that proud? Is that a family name, Dad?
Oh,
No, that's a strip club.
yeah. So proud of your child.
Yeah.
Gosh. Right.
I mean,
Sorry.
I don't know what could be more embarrassing unless your kid was named Big Mac or McNugget. I mean, I just don't know, but
you know, the sad part is here, you know, he was named after a strip club, and what was he doing? You know, I mean, seriously, what were you thinking?
yeah, he doesn't. He doesn't. I mean, you can't say the history behind that. And you know what? And this is not defense for Kegan at all. This is not defense for Kegan.
Right.
But Kegan was left behind with his dad to live with his dad. And when his dad is abusive to other children who are his stepchildren, right? And then his wives, and he witnesses that is abuse for kids to see that shit happen. I'm sorry to say a bad word, but for that shit to happen in front of him, that is child abuse.
Oh,
And you can't
absolutely.
tell me he did not mentally and physically abuse his own son. And that isn't an excuse for him.
Right. I agree with you. You know, I do. But in the same token, JC, not everybody that's been abused in this world turns out to do those type of things, you know? So, I mean, I agree with you. Yes, it's not, you know, like you said, it's not an excuse, and you're not trying to make an excuse, but, you know, it's just, it's how you're raised too. I hate to say it. You know, these are learned things as far as, again, in my opinion, you know, maybe things that he's seen family members do, you know.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
You know? Yeah. Thank you, Dustin. I'll check that out right after we get off here. Yeah, I mean, we know that there is a lot of connections in small towns. A lot of people know each other. So even just to be like, hey, they didn't, and you can't ignore that, you know, Richard Allen's wife grew up in Peru. She lived in Peru. They got married in Peru.
Right.
So you're talking that small town, and then you've got, you know, his wife has to be from there, and her family still was out of there. And there's a lot of connections from that. Plus just the chain of the family living there for generations, which I've covered that before, of the Klines and generations in the community, as well as others in the community. Now, you know, the other relatives of the Klines have nothing to do with that, right? The other relatives of, you know, the Allens have nothing to do with that. You know, we never would point out anything bad about families and stuff like that, because sometimes you can't help who the hell you're related to, for certain.
True. Very true.
But you know, this was I think, you know, one thing I find interesting is how did people feel comfortable doing this in the middle of the day in the afternoon? Right?
Right.
How did they feel comfortable in the middle of the afternoon doing that?
I think that's so many people's question.
Yep.
Really. It's very brazen. I mean, it's just, you have a lot of confidence in yourself, you know, to be able to do something like that. And those poor girls, you know, justice for Abby and Libby. I mean, that's what we're here for.
Absolutely. You know? Absolutely. And like we said, you know, the big thing that they're trying to connect, the big things they're trying to connect is connections between people and who else they could be connected with, you know?
Right.
And so whoever that may be, and who knows, it could come out that it's something else or whatever, but it will be interesting if it does go to trial. I have a suspicion it may not. I feel like that right now maybe the agreement is what they're going to give him for the amount of time he doesn't think is low enough, and that's why he hasn't said okay, and him as attorney. And you know, if they fix it and they get it, then he'll agree to it at the pretrial, and then there won't be a trial if the pretrial doesn't get pushed back. Because, you know, does something possibly come out that they're worried about at this trial that could be Delphi related?
Sure.
Who knows?
Absolutely. We've
Who
discussed
knows?
that. Yep. Strong possibility. I mean, it could be a number of things, but I have, like you, I think we've all discussed this. Cal, Paige, yourself, myself. I mean, I think we're all on the same page as far as, you know, we do think that there's a bigger, you know, I don't want to say force, you know, here that's behind the scenes, you know, that,
Yeah.
And I really do feel, and I think we've all said this too, that we all feel that this is really going to do a number on Kegan seeing Daddy's name on the witness list.
Well, it could, you know what? They could use that as a ploy. Maybe that's a ploy.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah.
they go and say, guess what? Your dad is going to testify against you.
Yep.
Okay, can you believe that? Are you upset about that? Maybe you
Sure.
shouldn't hold back information about your dad. And maybe it's not about the murder. Maybe it's just information about your dad for CSAM, right? Maybe
Could
it's
be
information
anything.
that he was actually participating, looking, whatever the case may be. And show him your dad's going to testify against you. So either you speak up or you don't.
Yep.
So I think that, you know, like we said, there are videos and stuff here. You can see full details and stuff from that. By the way, the other question that I know we've had before, and I almost forgot about this, the other friend in friend 1 and friend 2, I'm not going to put out the name until they legally put it out, although you technically can find it. That friend got arrested that December of that year that Kegan was arrested, and that friend happened to actually be a drug dealer.
Right.
And he was a drug dealer also, and he was busted with a bunch of other people. It was in the news way back then. And that one was a person he really didn't want to speak on that much in there. So
he was a gift giver also. Come on.
Yeah, no, I don't think he went into the gift giving process, but yeah, he didn't give the gifts of that.
No.
He was not the gift giver. So I do want to say that we do have across the bottom is the email address for tips. Also the tip line. They're, you know, still they're trying to connect whatever that other person may be, any information that you may have for Abby and Libby. We hope we helped by going through some of the witness lists with all of you guys. Mama Bear, thank you for being up here. And Paige, thanks for being up here. So Mama Bear, I'm gonna thank you again. Oh, she dropped off. And Paige and everybody, thank you also for Kelt. She is on our one of our Justice Serve Daily Research people. Also Evil CJ, he's out there modding. Go check out his channel as well. He does a fun channel. Although he doesn't like hats. That's all I'll share with you about him. But go check him out as well. Evil CJ, if you want to throw your link and stuff in there. So I hope we kind of helped of all the names, everybody we saw on the list, why they're involved, what their specialty and stuff are. you know, we would hope to inform everybody as much as we can about the case. And I will definitely go and check my Discord or check my email to see about the info about the other podcast. Thank you all for coming. Pam, Grismatically Clever, Pam, everybody. I appreciate all of you in here. French 6290. So I will go check out all of that. I will get into the email. And again, if you have any information, please contact the authorities. And if you want to share any information and stuff here, or have questions, or have info about a case to cover, you can contact me at justiceserveddaily@gmail.com. And I appreciate all of you being here. Please hit that subscribe button and like button. We are so close to finally hitting the 500 in the few months that we have been running over here, which is awesome. And we appreciate you being here and being able to help these girls and try to still get answers. We're not there yet, but we're getting closer. So thank you very much. And thank you for making Justice Served Daily. Bye-bye.